Oh yes, of course. Yeah, we can make 3D and animate in Revit. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yep. So, yeah, not so much in this subject, but I'll just give you a quick idea. Under export, you've got images and animation, and then walk through there. So that's how you create them. But to make them in the first place, you need to have a walkthrough view. So yeah, and then it's not that different to making a camera view. And yeah, I'll go through that later though quickly when I have time. It's not that difficult. To make a family though, we'll just have a look at what we've got here. The truss that you can see there spans across the width of the building, and well, it's obviously based on this building, so let's have a look at that size. Right, so in my ground floor plan, I'm just going to measure with the tape measure from the inside of the bottom wall to the inside of the top wall, and it's giving me this fantastic measurement, 14317.4. And well, that's the size that we've drawn it, so that's the size I'll need to make it. So I'm just going to select that number, and well, we probably should round it off a little bit, but no, I'll do it that size. So I'm going to copy that number just by right-clicking, and well, in real life, yeah, if I was doing this, I probably would think about that. Maybe I should show you. So if the wall there comes down, I've got a dimension here that I'll just drag up to the top wall, and I'll make that 14320, which is yeah, a slightly rounder number. So that's yeah, that'll do. So again, I can just select that number now, Control C on the keyboard to copy it to the clipboard, and now I'm going to go to make a new file, just to save me remembering that number. So on the main menu, new and then family is the main process, and then you'll get a list of all the family templates. So it's similar to when you make in-place families. These relate to the categories that you would have chosen before, and so you could use generic model for this, and actually that's what I'll use. But have a look at some of the other categories. Don't want to go too far into these because they all work differently, but you've got a lot of options there. And so again, I'm just going to double click on metric generic model, and I've got now a blank new file. Exactly, yeah. And so it actually makes the management a lot easier. Yeah. And and also again, you can take it into lots of different projects. Sorry. So I'm going to draw a reference plane to start on to one side of this centre line. So just almost anywhere to the left, coming down, and then I'll go, draw another one to the right. No, so I'm just drawing it fairly roughly. The only important thing is that these planes are either side of the centre line. Exactly. And so now I'm going to draw in a dimension that goes from one side to the other, and then also I'm going to pick the centre plane there, place it to one side, and then click equals. So they should be centred now over the centre line. And then I'm going to draw another aligned dimension, this time going from one side to the other without choosing the centre. And I'll place that above. Okay, so I've cancelled everything, and now I'm going to select one of those planes on either side, and then I can then change this dimension. Okay, now watch out for this. Sometimes, depending on the order you draw your dimensions, it won't let you change this one. Now, if you play around enough, you will get it to be editable. So there you can see it doesn't want to let me change that number. It'll let me change this one, but it's just one of those things. You can stretch it to move them and the number's going to change. But here, I'm just going to take this equals dimension out. So I'll delete that, and now if I select one of those planes, I can then change this number. So I'll just paste in now, Control V, enter to get the dimension that I had before. So I want that dimension to stay, and I'm going to select the dimension and lock it. And now I'll try drawing my dimension back in over all three planes, and using equal there, it's telling me, I've got an issue with the constraint. So yeah, it doesn't want me to do it that way. Without doing formulas, and I don't want to get into that, it's going to be difficult to paste the number in, but I can look at the number there. So it's 14,220, which divided by 2 is, anyone to do base? Exactly, 7160. And okay, so I can select one of these reference planes and then just type in either, yeah, I'll just do it manually, 7160 either side, and get it centered. Now, using equals will work once you start using parameters, and we'll get into that later, but until you do that, then, well, you can just move them manually. And it's important that you have these reference planes that define the two sides of the truss centered over the center line. And so then this base reference plane, I'm going to drag or try, no, they're locked sometimes, so it won't let me stretch the ends, but the other planes that I make, I can stretch. So I'm going to stretch these ones at the end just up a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to draw some more reference planes. So I'm going to draw a reference plane just above, and so this will set the height of the truss. And we've got to have a look at that back in the drawing here. Or you can see it's actually given as a dimension, but we don't have a dimension in between the different floors. So I'll have to go and measure that from AutoCAD. Or you could bring it in, if you've inserted into Revit, then you can always insert the drawing there. Okay, so again, just make sure you've got those measurements, 7160 either side of the center line. And then, oh yeah, and so then the reference plane on the left, if you select that, then you can go into Properties and call it left. The reference plane on the right, again, if you select it, go into Properties and call it right. So you'll see when you name reference planes, you'll see the name when you select them. And if you had to do anything on the planes in the last project, you might remember using the name, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so I'm going to get the AutoCAD drawing. Alright, so you've got the joist, yeah, we'll call it a joist. Okay, so essentially it's the bottom of the truss, which is going to function as really as a ceiling joist in this case, or a beam, I suppose, as well, you could call it. And then you also have the rafter above that, which is the other main element, which gives the thickness or the depth of the truss there. And then the top of the rafter essentially is your ridge. Sorry, my cursor's freezing. So that top point there on your ridge is the top of the truss. You've got the roof lining above that. So I'm going to measure from the top of the ridge there down to the bottom of that, well, I'm going to say it's a joist. Notice I'm just drawing or snapping to anywhere on that line. I'm not worrying about clicking vertical points, because if I clicked on this point and it actually went down to this point here, it'll still give me a vertical distance. So you can see it's turned out to be... So, Oh, I'm not going to. Oh, I'm going to draw that in afterwards. But at the moment, I just need to know where the top is, or how high the top is above the bottom. So here it's delta y, which is 2648.3506. We don't even need to worry. I'm going to round that off and make that 2650. Okay, so so here I can select that reference plane and just type that in 26. Okay, so that gives me the main lines to the truss, but I'll also need to know the size of these different members. So again, just using measure in AutoCAD, you can check the size of that joist there. So that's 250. It really is more like a beam because it's quite deep. Okay, so I'm going to draw that in the view, and actually I've done something really silly here. I've drawn the reference plane in the plan. Okay, so this is my plan view from above. I need to go to the front elevation, where of course I can see the left and the right reference planes. And then I'll draw now again my top reference plane, and sorry, just checking that distance again, 2650, wasn't it? Yep. Okay, so again, I'll just make that the height. So probably good to see that, because it's a common mistake people make, forgetting to change to the appropriate view when you're making, especially things that need to be projected or from the side. Okay, so I'm just stretching these planes up so they are a little bit higher, and yeah, it will sometimes let you stretch these initial planes as well, so try that. And okay, so then the beam, I'm just going to draw using on the Create tab with an extrusion, and I can just draw a rectangle now, snapping to the intersection of this reference level. So that's like the ground floor in a project file. In a family file, that's your base level. And so I'll just draw in a rectangle and make that 250 high. Right, so the depth I'll worry about afterwards, so I'm just going to click tick to finish. And you can see in properties it's 250 deep. Okay, I'm going to make that 100 mil deep instead. And then I'll just show you in a 3D view. If I click on the 3D view button there, that's a box essentially. Going back into that front view, then I can draw the other lines for the truss, and it's a fairly easy one to draw, so it's just another couple of extrusions are going to give you most of it. So the rafter, which you have there, that main member going at the angle there, is essentially projected off the gutter. So yeah, you definitely want to set that out next. And so we've got there again a distance from the end, so 400. And so again, doesn't hurt to draw in a reference plane for that. So 400 from the end of the beam. And because it's symmetrical, now I can select that reference plane and use mirror pick axis and simply pick that center line. So you can see when you're making symmetrical objects like this, it's really important to think about that center line from the beginning when you're setting it all up. It makes everything much easier. And so now I've got the rafter, which you can see is, well, the bottom edge needs to line up with the bottom corner of the gutter, and then we've got the angle, which needs to take us up to the top. So to work all of that out, you've got the, well, let's just do it off the top of the gutter, so I don't have to get too much into trigonometry. So we'll just draw from the top here, which is, well, let's say it's 220. Yeah, don't want to get too carried away here. So the, again, the distance there, I'll just draw a reference plane for that, 220 above, and I'll take it all the way across. If I just change that dimension, And then, again, just using an extrusion now, I can draw a line from the intersection of those two reference planes to the intersection at the ridge that I set out earlier. Can then just copy that line down to the bottom of the gutter and then just connect it all. So again, if it's set out with those reference planes initially, then working out the angles is not too difficult. And to be honest, that is not perfectly accurate, but it's good enough. It'll look as good as you need it for this project. So so now if I use, again, mirror pick axis, I can flip that over the other side. That's the main truss done, really. If I just, again, pick to finish. Well, actually, I'll just undo that. I'm going to change the height or the depth in properties now, which means then if I make more extrusions, they'll all have that height. So I'll just make some more for the hangers and the struts. So you've got here these struts at an angle, and they go into the wall there. That's, well, don't get too worried about making this perfect here. So let's just have a look there what they've got.
Is that just because they probably wouldn't stick to the columns there?
Yeah, I'd say it's just not drawn properly. Yeah. So so we can make it up as well, essentially, and just make it look the way it needs to. So here we've got 400 across for that column or whatever's cutting through there, and and it wouldn't go. I doubt it would go through that height. Maybe it does, but I'd say it probably stops at the truss. Let's have a look at the photos actually. Yeah, see, so there's no columns, I don't think, going up into there. Yeah. But yeah, it's good to allow for that, or at least know that it's there. So coming from the base of that, yeah, so let's just draw from there. Again, another extrusion. So a good way to do it would be to have a, let's see the angle there. Yeah, so it's just at 45 degrees, I think they've drawn, pretty much. Oh no, 37 degrees. Okay, so let's just use that angle. Okay, so again, just drawing a line from the centre there. All I'm worrying about now is the angle, and the length I'm not worrying about at all. And I'll just offset that, well, again, just measuring in AutoCAD. Okay, so it's 125 across that strut. So again, I'll well, use offset and 67.5, so 62.5. Okay, so 62.5 is half of 125. So again, I can mirror those across once I've drawn the first two. So I'm doing this fairly quickly, but hopefully you can take your time and just work out a way of drawing these that makes sense to you. Oh, that's the last thing I'm going to show you. So I'll just put in the extrusion for the struts, and I know it's a lot to take in when you see all the steps for drawing it, but basically it's good to try and work this out for yourselves as you make it. Yeah, it's probably easier just to do it as one, yeah, where you can. Yep. In reality it would be two pieces, but yeah, if you can do it as one, it's easier. And yeah. So then, yeah, that'll do. I mean, it might even, no, that'll do. So I'll finish that one, and then the hangers. Again, I don't think this is drawn perfectly, but I'll just measure the distance there. So from the gutter it's, well, let's say 2600. So again, just with some reference planes, or with the reference plane I already have, I can copy. So make sure you're trying out all those different modify tools. They all have a use. So you can copy here, the copy button. You can click a point, take the cursor across to the left, and then type in 2600. So then the width of that is 150. Okay, so now if I draw an extrusion, just using lines, coming across 150. I'll finish that one, and then again with mirror pick axis can flip it over. Right, so there we are. So that is going to give you a 3D truss. And yeah, it's a nice thing to have. And so then to get a bit more articulation, you could play with the depth of those interior units or members. And so I could say, right, I want that to have be slightly narrower. So I'll make it start at 20 and end at 80. Yeah, so that'll leave it 60 mil deep. And so you can see it's just come in slightly, just if you want a bit of extra detail to show there. And then one final thing that will help you when you're working in these family files, they're often smaller objects than you'll have in projects. And so the line weight might seem fairly heavy. Just try changing the scale to a lower one. So 1 to 20, we'll use relatively lighter line weights. You can always use thin lines at any time just to turn line weights off, but that can help. So I'll worry about the materials and other things later. I'm just going to save that as it is. Okay, so I was going to use save as family. That's the most important thing here. Don't try and do a library. Just go straight to save as family, and then in the I'm going to save mine here in the U drive, and then 2014 and in my folder here. Okay, so I'm just going to call this timber truss. I should give the size. No, that'll do. So just timber truss for now, and then final thing, this is really important, using load into project. So in any of these separate family files that you work in, you'll have this button available, load into project, which if you only have one project file open is going to take you straight back into it. So there, I'm in the main project file again, but this time with the truss. I don't want to insert it here, so I'm going to go to my level 2, and then if I click component, it's still there. It was already loaded, so it's just brought it back to me. Well, that was the tool it was already on. So I can then press space to flip it, just like anything else. And so I'll line that up with the inside of the wall there. And so the front truss is going to be a bit funny. They always are, because that goes with the facade wall. So I've just placed that roughly, but then the others should sit on the column grids. I've got to check that, but I'm pretty sure that's the arrangement. So, well, you can either just keep placing them like that, or you can even go into a view, and there's a good chance, again, just to use tools like that copy one I showed you. So before I go crazy and copy it everywhere, I'm going to just make sure it is centered by having a good look at it. That looks pretty well centered to me. So then, once I've selected it, don't forget about array as well. It's great when you need to copy lots of things, but can be tricky, and it can sometimes do more than you want it to. So I'm going to use copy instead. But I'm going to tick multiple, so I can do lots of copies. Right, so then I'm just going to pick it up on the midpoint at the end of that truss, and now I can go along and snap it onto each of my grid lines. and it's not a bad way of doing it. You might realise later that an array is going to help you a lot there as well, but I wouldn't mind having it this way because it means I can easily go and modify each truss if I need to. Okay, so there aren't too many columns here. Won't take that long to copy onto each one. And so again, the last one will be different. I'll come back to that. But just with the main trusses there, you can see it makes a big difference to the model. And well, I'll just quickly do a perspective view through there, and you'll see, having that extra level of detail really makes a huge difference to a space like this. So, okay, so I'll finish that video there.